Today, the super yacht industry is selling you a massive multi-million-dollar lie under the catchy label 100% carbon fiber. Shipyards, brokers, and marketing departments are asking you to pay a massive premium for yachts that are lighter, stiffer, and supposedly almost indestructible. They talk about technology straight from Formula One and aviation, insisting that a carbon fuselage is the absolute ideal. Let's take a look at the market. The Sunreef brand successfully pumps this trend by announcing the construction of fully carbon editions of its luxurious Sunreef 80 catamarans. Wally Shipyard has proudly promoted its iconic units for years, such as the over 32-meter Wally Wind 110, built entirely from carbon composites. Meanwhile, Pershing in its 8X model boasts about a carbon revolution, where the hyper-light carbon hull is supposed to guarantee aerospace precision and speeds exceeding 40 knots. Listening to this, one might think that carbon fiber is the holy grail. But today, we are taking off the marketing blinders. Instead of reading advertising brochures, let's look at the facts. Today, I will show you why Shipyard's fixation on extreme weight reduction of the hull kills its long-term durability. You will understand how the ocean destroys these yachts from the inside out through invisible resin fatigue, and why surveyors miss it. And finally, we will answer the most important question. Why do these super fast yachts ultimately become uninsurable, fragile financial traps? Let's dive in. The entire premise of carbon hulls rests on a fundamental flaw, treating a yacht like an airplane. Indeed, carbon fiber is brilliant in aviation, where loads are predictable, aerodynamic, and consistent, but the ocean is not air. Carbon fiber, unlike common thick fiberglass or metals, is extremely brittle. Metals, such as marine-grade aluminum or steel, have a crucial property: the capacity for plastic deformation. Long before a steel hull cracks, it bends, giving you a clear visual warning. Carbon doesn't do that. When it crosses its stress limit, there is no plastic face. It just fails suddenly and catastrophically. The hull of a motorboat, which constantly battles the elements, needs flexibility to absorb the impact of waves, and carbon simply does not possess this flexibility by nature. This brings us to the most closely guarded secret in marine engineering, the phenomenon of resin fatigue. Remember that term. Let's get one thing straight. A carbon hull is not a monolith. It consists of incredibly strong yet hair-thin carbon strands suspended in a relatively soft epoxy resin matrix. The resin is essentially just a glue here. When you are moving at high speed, the hull violently hits the water, which at those speeds feels like solid concrete, thousands of times in a process called slamming. The stiff carbon fibers easily withstand the tension, but they are unable to absorb these transverse impacts. Therefore, this entire gigantic momentum must be absorbed by the soft resin. With each successive strike of the yacht against the wave, micro cracks form in the resin matrix. Chemical bonds around the fibers simply break. The consequence? The yacht slowly and imperceptibly loses its out-of-the-box rigidity. This phenomenon was first extensively documented in racing yachts, which after a few seasons of brutal punishment on the water, became structurally soft and lost their competitive edge. Today, that exact same merciless process is unfolding beneath the decks of multi-million-dollar motor yachts. But the true destructive drama begins when the yacht operates in salt water. As fatigue-induced microcracks appear in the resin, water inevitably seeps in, and from a physics standpoint, water is an incompressible fluid. When the yacht slams down off a wave, the water trapped inside these microcracks acts as a powerful hydraulic wedge. Generating hundreds of bars of pressure, it violently tears through the subsequent layers of super expensive carbon composite from the inside out. This process is irreversible delamination. The worst part of it all is that your shiny, impeccably painted hull still looks perfect from the outside. The destruction progresses silently deep within the structure. You often only discover it years later when the bottom of the hull suddenly fractures around the engine mounts. At this point, you might be asking, if carbon is so brittle, why don't the wings snap off the new Boeings? The answer is brutal. Aviation carbon and yacht carbon are two completely different worlds. In aviation, panels are cured with micrometric precision in sterile conditions using powerful autoclaves and vacuum systems that eliminate every single air bubble under immense pressure. Meanwhile, no one cures massive 30-meter yacht hulls in autoclaves. It is both physically impractical and economically unfeasible. Shipyards rely on the resin infusion process in standard factory conditions. While it is an advanced method in such a massive manually prepared layup, there are almost always inherent manufacturing defects, microvoids, dry spots, and fiber misalignment. In aviation, such an element goes to the trash. In the yacht industry, these microscopic gaps become triggers for the resin fatigue and delamination described a moment ago. But wait, you might think I'll just hire a marine surveyor before buying a yacht on the secondary market. Unfortunately, when it comes to full carbon constructions, traditional marine surveyors are technologically blind. A standard pre-purchase survey relies on electronic moisture meters and tap testing the hull with a hammer. When it comes to carbon, these methods are completely useless. Because carbon is electrically conductive, it interferes with the signals of traditional moisture sensors, resulting in completely unreliable and distorted data. Secondly, the extreme rigidity of the carbon laminate combined with a thick insulating core muffles any acoustic signs of resin failure, making it impossible to detect by ear. So, the industry is turning towards expensive, non-destructive ultrasonic diagnostics, in short NDT. Sounds great, but that's where the biggest trap lies. Large carbon hulls are built as robust sandwich structures. They consist of an outer carbon skin, a thick structural foam core in the middle, and an inner carbon skin. Ultrasound is excellent for examining thin aerospace laminates, but when we try to scan a thick yacht hull, the sound waves are scattered and heavily attenuated by the soft foam core. It results from a phenomenon that engineers call a false negative. The equipment shows that the hull is clear, and the expert issues a clean bill of health. You are buying a 6-year-old yacht for several million euros, relying on this report, while in reality, its carbon structure may be shattering from within. You are blind, your surveyor is blind, and worst of all, your insurer is blind too. Does all of this mean that carbon fiber is just a marketing gimmick and should be avoided at all costs? Absolutely not. It's a remarkable material with one crucial caveat. You must know exactly how and where to apply it on a vessel. The laws of physics are absolute in the ocean. The underwater sections, the areas that daily endure thousands of tons of dynamic hydraulic pressure, docking impacts, and wave slamming, must have the ability to dissipate energy. The best material for this remains solid, proven fiberglass, GRP, or in the case of mega yachts, aluminum or steel. In naval architecture, carbon fiber should be treated like a surgical scalpel. Fortunately, the industry's biggest players understand this perfectly and have moved away from the risky trend of building motor yacht hulls entirely out of carbon. Take a look at the revolutionary Smart Performance series by San Lorenzo. Models like the SP92 or SP110 are perfect examples of this balanced approach. Consider the Azimuth Carbon Tech line or the powerful Ferretti 1000. The secret behind these masterpieces, a smart hybrid philosophy. While the hull remains solid, dependable GRP, carbon fiber is reserved for the high-altitude components, roofs, masts, and superstructures, where reducing weight matters most for stability. Why is this approach so effective? Shaving off significant weight from several meters above the waterline drastically lowers the vessel's center of gravity. This minimizes rolling, making the yacht incredibly stable. At the same time, the carbon components are safe from fatigue because they are isolated from direct wave impacts. This is engineering that makes real sense, and it's a premium worth paying for. Let's talk about your money now, because this is where the industry can be at its most brutal. Many of you will ask, wait a minute, do these sky-high insurance premiums simply exist because all carbon hulls are usually found on high-performance yachts? You know, the ones hitting 60 or 70 knots that are much more likely to strike a submerged object? The answer is yes, that is part of the truth. Extreme speed equals extreme risk. At 70 knots, a captain's reaction time is slashed, and the kinetic energy of an impact is staggering. Most standard recreational policies impose strict limits or outright exclusions for speeds exceeding 45 or 50 knots. High-performance boats built for offshore racing are, by definition, in a completely different insurance league. But beware, your biggest investment problem lies not only in the speed itself. The real issue for the insurer is the material. It's a literal carbon tax imposed on almost every full carbon vessel, even on luxury cruisers like the large Pershing yachts or cruising catamarans that sail at much more modest speeds. In the London insurance markets, fully carbon yachts have even acquired their own grim nickname, fragile liabilities. Why? It comes down to pure mathematics and the cost of restoration. If you run aground or hit a rock with a conventional GRP yacht, the repair is straightforward. Grind out the area, apply vinyl ester resin with glass fiber reinforcements, and finish with gel coat. The process is cost-effective, repeatable, and widely understood. However, if you damage a carbon hull in a high-load area such as the engine room, repair costs skyrocket into the stratosphere. Carbon fiber cannot be patched in a dusty shipyard with a resin roller. Repairing structural delamination requires encapsulating the yacht in sterile chambers using vacuum pumps and applying precision thermal curing, all overseen by aerospace engineers who must perfectly recreate the original fiber orientation. The cost of such an operation can be astronomical, and insurers are well aware of it. Consequently, annual premiums for a full carbon yacht are significantly higher by definition. Underwriting syndicates live in constant fear of a single collision, one where the repair bill could easily equal the total insured value of the vessel. However, the real investment drama unfolds on the brokerage market. When a carbon yacht approaches the 10-year mark, insurance companies begin to panic. Fully aware of hidden resin fatigue and the limitations of NDT, they refuse to renew the most sought-after coverage, the agreed value policy. Instead, they push owners toward far less favorable terms. Insurers are increasingly compelling owners of aging carbon yachts to transition to actual cash value ACV policies. This means that in the event of a claim, the insurer will aggressively apply deductions for depreciation and wear and tear of the fatigue structure. When you attempt to sell, savvy buyers fully aware of the unquantifiable technical risks will use this insurance hurdle to slash your asking price. In the end, you are forced into massive price concessions. Your lightweight carbon bullet, once a technological marvel, depreciates far more aggressively than its solid hull counterparts made of fiberglass or steel. You end up paying twice, first by buying into the mythical marketing in the showroom, and years later by losing a fortune on resale value and insurance premiums. To summarize this lesson in engineering and economics, carbon fiber is a technological marvel. In professional racing and aerospace, it is absolutely indispensable. However, in a luxury yacht, forcing fragile carbon into the lower hull sections to withstand thousands of impacts from the swell is primarily a marketing ploy. It serves only to justify astronomical profit margins on new builds, unconditionally shifting the risk of invisible polymer fatigue and drastic depreciation straight onto your shoulders and your wallets. Don't let the gloss of a brochure dictate your investment. Look for smart hybrid solutions. Demand a hull that can handle the sea and a carbon top that masters the role. Take a page from the playbook of industry leaders like San Lorenzo and Ferretti. And before you commit millions to a dream, hire the right experts to ensure it doesn't become a nightmare. At Yachts Monaco, we show you the world as it truly is. We provide uncompromising technical audits and investment consulting to ensure you sail safely while your assets remain protected. Buy consciously. Subscribe for more technical truths from the closed world of super yachts. See you on the water.